Mystic Spearhand has earned my respect, not because I think it's powerful or fun or well designed, although it is all three of those things. I love Spearhand because it knows that it's cringe. It is the anime vocation of Dragon's Dogma. Its moveset is obnoxious, flashy, and over the top, but not in the same way the other vocations are. Sure, Sorcerer can summon giant tornadoes that deal incredibly high FPS damage, but it's a sorcerer, a classic fantasy archetype that's supposed to be a walking force of destruction. Dragon's Dogma strongly adheres to his realistic fantasy aesthetic, but Mystic Spearhand sticks out like a sore thumb. Spearhand is cringe anime nonsense, but it embraces that aspect of itself and thrives because of it. It also doesn't hurt that it's an absolute blast to play. Now, I'm always going to be a fighter main at heart. All I need is a sword, shield, and some idiot to parry to make me happy. However, magic is nice in small doses, and whenever I want to embrace my inner weeb, Mystic Spearhand is right there. Spearhand's vocation ability is Redoubted Bolt, which has too many words, so I'm calling it Bolt from now on. Pressing the ability sends out a weak bolt that staggers smaller enemies. This is what it feels like to get stunlocked, you stupid bitch. But when you hold down the button for 3 seconds, it changes into Foreboding Bolt, which sends out a projectile that stuns a target for a few seconds, allowing you to style on them with heavy attack or just whatever else you want. However, if you press the Bolt button right as it hits an enemy, it sends out a shockwave that stuns other enemies in the surrounding area. The shockwave will usually not hit other enemies if there's something or someone blocking the way, so it's best used when all the enemies are lined up next to each other. Now if you hold the Bolt button down for 10 seconds instead of 3, it supercharges and can stun enemies for longer and apply a greater slowing effect on large targets. Bolt is your most basic defense as Mystic Spearhand, stopping enemies in their tracks and allowing control of the battlefield. Holding Bolt doesn't consume stamina, but it prevents stamina recovery, so if you're greedy like me and always holding it down, you may find yourself with not enough stamina for the super sexy combo you were planning just now. Another thing about Foreboding Bolt is that you can press jump right after it hits an enemy to teleport to them for a very easy and convenient gap close. Bolt may take a bit of getting used to, but it's really good and smoothly fits into Spearhand's kit. You can charge Bolt at basically any time, whether you're walking, running, jumping, attacking. If you're in the middle of a combo, you can hold down the button to get it charging so you can release it whenever you need to. When you use the Bolt on one enemy to do an execution, you can charge Bolt for the duration of the execution animation, and it will be charged by the time you finish it, allowing you to keep chain stunning enemies, until you get knocked on your ass, that is. Spearhand has god-awful knockdown resistance. They will gladly spend 300 years on the floor if an enemy so much as breathes in their direction. I recommend dwarf smithing your armor. Every vocation should have dwarf smith armor, honestly. The knockdown bonuses are just too good. You can also pair this with the rank 6 Sorcerer Augment Constancy for 30% knockdown resistance, which is absolutely insane, by the way. Instead of spending 300 years on the floor whenever you get hit, you'll only spend 200. Spearhand naturally has its basic light attack, as well as a heavy attack that shoots out a magic damage arc. Now if you press light attack really fast, you can activate your helicopter mode, which is really good damage for downed enemies until you get your Meister skill. Helicopter! Skill talk time. The next 4 skills I'm going to be talking about are the ones I personally like using. I recommend you play around and see what you like best, but these are the ones I use. The first skill you get upon unlocking Spearhand is Dragon Stab. All of these skill names are really bad, so I'm just gonna make up my own. Let's call this one Dragon Dash. It looks like this. Great gap closer, good stagger, can use it to dodge, whatever. Then we've got Sky Dragon's Festi. I'm just gonna call it Uppy Downy. Uppy Downy is pure dopamine. It's a dodge followed by a downward strike, which lets you counter attacks or even mount enemies. If you time it perfectly, you'll see a golden flash with a tiny bit of slow-mo, dealing more damage. You can use Uppy Downy even if you're in the air, or just after a Dragon Dash. I like using it to dodge Drake down slam attacks, but it's important to note that whatever you do not land on the Drake when you do this. When a Drake is in its slamming down animation, standing on it will automatically trigger the ragdoll state, so if you accidentally land on the Drake while doing the Uppy Downy through its ground slam, you will flop to the ground and get bodied. I hate it. Talking about war crimes, this happened to me during my first 5 minutes of ever playing Spearhand. I usually position myself near one of the Drake's wings when he does his ground slam, just to avoid the possibility of getting ragdolled in case my toe so much as grazes his body. Next up is Ravenor's Hond. It's a stamina suck. That's what it is. You suck stamina from an enemy or even a dead body. Thanks to this skill, most of Spearhand's stamina issues evaporate into thin air. Actually, could you just not use stamina curatives instead of dedicating a whole skill slot to it? Well, if you want your character lugging around 80 kilos worth of stamina curatives, go ahead. I quite like having movement speed personally. Besides, nothing feels better than having a self-sufficient moveset. Then there's Wild Fury. This one is easy to say, so I guess I'll keep its name as is. Spamming this skill activates a flurry of attacks where you're joined by a clone of yourself. Your real body deals physical damage, while your clone deals magic. Because of this, Dwarven Smithing your duo spear is well worth it for both the strength and magic scaling, as well as the glorious knockdown bonuses. I love Dwarven Smithing so much, God bless you, Sarah. Talking about knockdown, I run 2 rings of Vehemence when playing Spearhand. I run the same 2 rings on almost every vocation because I'm a KD fiend, but it actually works really well for Spearhand. Your attacks will topple enemies over incredibly often. Naturally, Spearhand has plenty of other skills, like this magic cannon one. This is more of a fuck slimes laser beam, although the stagger damage is nothing to sneeze at. The last one I want to mention is the telekinesis spell with another dumb name. This one isn't very strong, I don't recommend it. Okay, I like this one. This is a great skill. Oh, there's also a shield spell which nullifies the damage your party takes for a time, but that's pretty cringe. Why would you use a boring shield when we have the super cool uppy downy skill instead? The augments I use when playing Spearhand are as follows. Metal for 30% more physical defense, Apotropasm for 30% more magic defense, Thew for 10 kilograms added to my carry weight. I play Mystic Spearhand solo, okay, I need that dump truck augment. Dominance for 15% added knockdown power, does this even need an explanation? Constancy for 30% knockdown resistance, for reasons that I went over earlier. The 6th augment is a flex slot, so you can basically put whatever you like here. You might have noticed that aside from dominance, I have no offensive orientated augments slotted. That's because augments like boost strength or boost magic are complete garbage in Dragon's Dogma 2. In the first game, Vehemence gave 10% strength, while Clout gave 20%, then we had Attunement for 10% magic and Acuity for 20%. The strength boosting augment Verve in DD2 gives 30. And no, it's not a percentage, it's a flat 30 to your strength stat in a game where your stats are in the hundreds and thousands. Now there are augments like Polarity which boost your strength and magic by 5%, which is just not worth slotting. It's better than a flat boost for sure, but I am not wasting an augment slot on 5% more damage. Meanwhile, augments like Metal, Apotropasm, and Constancy are incredibly strong, with 30% boost to your defensive stats. That being said, Mystic Spearhand still absolutely slays even with no damage augments, not that they'd make much of a difference in the first place. When I fight large bosses as Spearhand, I use Dragon Dash or Bolt for gap closing, maybe even an uppy downy to mount the creature, or simply stick to avoiding attacks with it. Your main source of damage is Wild Fury. Now this combo is insanely complicated, so make sure you pay close attention. I actually recommend grabbing a notebook, so I'll wait here while you go grab one, okay? Alright, so what you do is you go oh shit, I'm out of stamina. Oh no, I'm out of stamina again. I know that was incredibly complicated and difficult to understand, but don't worry, I'm sure you'll get it in time. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Oh, rest in peace, Mystic Knight. Mystic Spearhand ended up being way more fun than I anticipated, putting itself as my 3rd favourite vocation of all time. I look forward to properly mastering it one day. Actually, I forgot to mention the funny skill. Unto Heaven is a funny haha meme skill, and I know exactly who I want to use it on.
Gather round, treat your ears to a tale by a master storyteller. Gather round, treat your ears to
Special thanks to my patrons as always for their support. Just letting you know that brand new Chonklord feet pics from DD2 have been added to the patron-only chat channel in my Discord server. Here is a preview of one of the pics. If you want to see the rest of them, give me your money, you dingus. I'm not giving Chonklord's feet out for free.